welcome back everyone. We're back again doing another we're doing a Premier League reaction video to my Premier League predictions back in August or whatever it was. I'm not going to review the entire video because I think that video was ended up being like 45 minutes long, and if you watched it, fair play to you, but I don't want to do it because it'll just take too long. So I'm just going to go through my initial list and kind of compare it to where they finished and this, that and the other, and see how far we were off, if any were right, and etc. But we'll start off from the bottom anyways. So at the bottom of the table, I had Cardiff City. 19th place I had Crystal Palace and Watford. My reasoning for Cardiff, I think, was okay. They're a team that just came back up, more than likely to go back down, which they did. They ended up not having the goal scorer which they wanted, and there's a whole, I was going to say, tragic loss of Emiliano Sala. He could have done something if the plane didn't tragically go down and he lost his life. But we'll never know that now. But and then I also had Crystal Palace and Watford. In my previous video, I'll put a link to it if you guys want to watch it and just see where I'm coming from. I was saying that Crystal Palace, that I thought they were going to go down because they were not defensively sound at the back, and they, for a few seasons, they had been playing Hennessy and Speroni at times, and they didn't really have the solid back line, and they didn't have the striker to get them a fair amount of goals because they were heavily reliant on Zaha. In the last few seasons, Zaha's been in and out of the team, injury prone and whatnot. But yeah, so they had a wonder kid break out in the likes of Aaron Wan-Bissaka anyways. He had a savage season, linked with all the big boys in the league. They signed that Keita lad. I don't know where they got him from, but he was a stellar signing. And then they got Batshuayi in January, and he became a stellar signing for them, picking up some goals as well along the way and contributing. And Zaha stayed relatively fit and just didn't have any issues. They became a terrible team to play away at, or play at home, or they were great at home. Solid at the back. Everyone was having difficulty beating them. I believe Arsenal lost 3-2 to them. At one stage of the season, Arsenal have been losing to everyone anyways, but they did really good. And 18th I had Watford. My reasoning for Watford was because at the time they didn't really sign anyone, and I don't believe they actually did in summer. I think they signed one or two players. Like they signed what's his name, Deulofeu onto a permanent deal, a few other players, but it didn't really stand out to me as being like wow kind of signings. But then they sold the likes of Richarlison. They brought him in for 50 million, and they always had the issue of chopping and changing, and they'd always start the league so brightly, and then they just end up kind of falling away. And they did that this season, that they started so brightly, but they kind of kept that momentum up until January. And then even though they kind of fell off at some stages, like it wasn't to any fault of their own. They were just going up against greater opposition, sometimes playing against like the big boys and stuff, but they did really well, and they ended up finishing 11th in the season. So both Watford and Crystal Palace were pretty bad. Crystal Palace ended up finishing 12th and Watford finished 11th, so I was off by 7 places for both of them. Cardiff wasn't too bad. I had them down 20th, but they ended up finishing 18th. Onto the kind of next bracket from like 17th to 12th. In 17th I had Huddersfield, 16th was Southampton, 15th was Brighton, 14th was Fulham, 13th was Leicester, and 12th was Bournemouth. I wasn't too great with these. A lot of them were off, bar one, surprisingly. I had Huddersfield at 17th. I thought they were just going to barely survive the drop, that they still kind of had a bit of tenacity and desire about them, but everything that they had last season just seems to be completely stripped out of them. They never really got that goal scorer that they needed. I think they sacked Wagner, and he was kind of rightly so to sack him, but they ended up bringing in basically a crappier Wagner. I think he was the under 23s manager, under 18s manager for Dortmund at the time, and it just didn't seem like basically they want to get away from the technical style of football and try to play dogged football, basically keep him in the league, and they just kind of brought in a worse 2.0 variation of Wagner. And like Wagner I don't believe he quit, he left on his own terms, I think, because they had won 14 games without getting a win or something. But yeah, I think they're the second worst Premier League team in history on 16 points, so it definitely wasn't good for him. 16th I had Southampton. Yeah, they finished where I thought they were going to finish. I thought they're constantly getting stripped last few seasons, and they've been focusing on bringing in some crabby talent, and their scouting just hasn't been good. A lot of their players, or a lot of their scouting and stuff, has been stripped lately, but they're not relying on their academy as much as they really should be. Going forward, I'd say that's probably what they're going to do, especially with Hasenhüttl in charge. He seems like a very technical manager. I think a good couple of transfer windows under his belt with Southampton, they could be back to where they were a few seasons ago. I believe was it the season where Leicester won, they came sixth in the league. So who knows, they could do that again sometime. Although that was a crazy season, so we'll never know. In 15th, I had Brighton. I thought they had enough about them, and they kind of they finished strong at the end of the last Premier League, and I thought that they would kind of keep that momentum going. They were strong at the beginning, but they eventually fell apart, and they went on a run where I think 23 games, where they only won twice, which really isn't good enough for a team of their quality. And the players that they have, like Rex of Knockaert, other players like that. But I think their biggest problem was they just didn't have the striker. Last season, Gross, I can't remember. It's Gross, or the beta symbol for the German SSS. Yeah, he contributed a fair few goals last season. I think he got 10. But obviously you can't rely on him to do that, because obviously teams were prepared to go up against him, and he didn't have a stellar season as he did the season prior. And they just don't have the goal scorer for him. They still have Glenn Murray, but he's lost loads of pace. He's not the target man he used to be. He still gets goals, don't get me wrong, but he's more of a Pepe Cissa kind of guy. Like, you just get him in the box, score your goal, but ask him anything else and it's going to go wide, or he's just not going to be able to do anything with it. 14th place, I Fulham. I should have seen this coming. They spent 100 million in the summer, and I was thinking all of these signings would look pretty decent, whatnot. But the manager just wasn't ready. Then they made a bad appointment in Ranieri. Obviously, he wasn't the man to bring him in. You need to steady the ship, and they got what's his name? It's not Sidwell. The guy who used to play Fulham for years ago. I can't remember the name of him. Scott Parker. They brought him in as the temporary manager. I think he'll probably get the full-time job come the end of the season. But yeah, it was basically QPR 2.0, 100 million spent, and so much stuff. But they signed so many players that they just kind of screwed the morale of the team. And also, Jokanovic, he kept changing formations and just throwing bits and bobs, and he wasn't able to kind of find the right formation. They obviously signing too many players. He was trying to shoehorn them all into one team. Obviously, it wasn't going to work in the end, and that kind of fell apart for him. 13th, we have Leicester City. I put this as Leicester City with Claude Puel, because towards the end of the previous season, he didn't have a great time with them. They did finish, I think, mid-table-ish, 11th or 12th, but I thought with Claude Puel in charge, they'll eventually starts teetering down the table. Unfortunately, they sacked him, I think it was February, because that's when Rodgers came in. They sacked him in February, and they brought Rodgers in, and he picked up 30 points for him, I think. Oh no, that's not Claude Puel. Hasenhüttl in the same space of time as Chelsea and someone else. But yeah, what do you call it? Rodgers has gotten a tune out of Vardy. I think he's gotten 10 goals. Last I checked, he got 10 goals out of him in about, I think it was 10 goals in about 11 games, while Puel got 8 goals out of him in about 27 games, which is ridiculous considering Vardy's talent. And he finished on 17 goals, I want to say, this season. So, like, a stellar season from again. And I just thought they were going to figure out there, and I thought they were going to have a bit of difficulties with Riyad Mahrez. But with the signings of Maddison and a couple other players, they seem to they've done stellarly again. And more than likely, you're going to see them, I'd say, probably challenge for the Europa League place next season. I'd say they'd be up there with likes of Everton and Wolves. In 12th, I have Bournemouth. I thought they were going to be a stellar team. They seemed to have signed some good players, but they started the season really well. But sometimes it just fell apart on them. Like they were battering teams, although they did have a good run a few games where they were going up against not lesser opposition, but teams that they could play well against. And they just picked up a fair few points. I think after 7 or 8 games, they're in the top 6. And basically the way they play is a quality team. And it's a good shout to Eddie Howe because he never really changes his tactics, so he kind of always stays the same way. Even if they lose, like he'll still keep playing. I believe he said this summer is going to be his biggest transfer window, which could be good, or next season could be his best season. Seeing if all the players who are in around their mid-20s, late early 30s, if they're all just going to click now because they're kind of at their prime and their peak, if they're going to become the finished articles that they expected them to be. And they've had their signings lately have been pretty decent, likes of Francis. I think it's Francis, the Scottish lad that they got from the Championship. I believe he came through last season. I'm probably getting the wrong name. I think it's Francis. I don't know why Francis is coming to my head, but he's been stellar for them. The left winger. I'm pretty sure it's Francis. But yeah, they finished in 14th. I have them 12th, so not too bad about that. They could have been a lot lower if they didn't have that run to start the season, so that gave them a big boost. Because they weren't too far off the drop realistically, and hopefully next season they will kick on because they're a side I really like to watch. They're really good on the ball, they're really technical and stuff. In 11th, I have Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves, Jesus Christ, I was expecting them to finish high in the table, but I was not expecting them to finish 7th high. Like, they came up from the Championship, and it was just basically like an FM job, just coming in and battering everyone. And like they only lost one game against the top 6, and that was the final day of the season against Liverpool. And like I was kind of thinking that if it came down to it, if somehow Man City was losing, Connor Cody might just bang one into the back of the net to give Liverpool the lead, because I know he was a graduate from there. That's what I was kind of hoping for. Obviously it was never going to happen, but I was kind of praying it would. But yeah, they had a stellar season. They had the right amount of they improved the squad a little bit. I think they only spent like 30 million because they brought in like Dendoncker, the striker, I forget his name, the lad from Benfica, Adama Traore and Moutinho, and they just added a few key players to the squad, just to like Moutinho for the experience, Adama Traore for the bit of pace at the end of games, Dendoncker as a versatile centre half, the defensive midfielder, just to do a job for him, and everything just seemed to click for him. And next season they're going to be absolutely stellar. I'd say they're probably going to sell off some, I say deadwood, but like they don't really have any. Like maybe like some Ryan Bennett and stuff, just because they're not in the starting 11, but they're still really good players for him. Yeah, they're going to be sick next season. I believe they're in the Europa League. They might be in the qualifying spots. And then we have Newcastle, and I put in 10th. I thought they might finish 10th again, because like last season they finished 10th. They just managed to have a good run at the end of the season and get in there. But it was very close between like the 10th to like 13th and all them. Same case again, Newcastle was really close to them. Yeah, they had another strong end to the season finish. I think they ended up picking up a load of points, and Ayoze Perez just seemed to click it on. I think he picked up like 10 goals this season, which is stellar for him. Salomon Rondon, I thought at the start of the season he was going to be an absolute donkey because he never really scored that many goals, but Jesus, he got a fair few important goals. It'd be interesting if Newcastle end up signing him, or if he's just going to leave. And because if he does leave, they'll get Gale back, and he's had a good championship season, but at the same time he's been more of a championship level player. We'll see anyways how they progress and if they decide to make the transfer permanent. If Newcastle don't tie Benitez down for another few years, I can see them getting relegated straight back down, because the squad is actually so weak in comparison to the rest of the league, and they only had one good player out of likes of, like, excluding Schär, Perez, Rondon, and Dubravka was their main signings this season. Not including Perez, but they had a Longstaff come through, I believe, from the under-23s, and he had a fair few good games for him. He picked up a knock in, I want to say April, but I think he had like scored 3 or 4 goals. He was getting assists. I can't remember if he was playing striker or out on the left or right or something as a winger, but he did pretty well for him. But again, if if Newcastle don't tie Benitez down for a new contract, he's probably going to leave. Well, he's definitely going to leave, but you can't see what they're going to do without him. Like, the squad is so poor, and like, he just shows how good of a manager he is, getting them to play to that level. But yeah, I I hope the club gets sold and they tie Benitez down and they just give him a load of cash, because Newcastle is really a sleeping titan in this league. Just the amount of money they make every season, and I don't know, be a shame, because as close as they are to a sleeping titan, they're also so close to becoming the next Leeds. And saying that becoming the next Leeds, but Leeds are actually doing pretty good at the moment. I just saw that they got knocked out by Derby in the playoff semi-final, which sucks for them, because I kind of want them to come up, just because they're such a big fan base and they're such a big club that you want to see them in the Premier League. But at the same time, they've been down there so long that they probably don't have the financial constraints. I don't know. But I'm afraid if Newcastle would go down, they could easily go back down to the League One and meet up with Sunderland, which nobody wants. And in ninth, I have West Ham United. I thought the signing of Pellegrini was pretty good. I've never really rated him as a manager, but he seems to got the right tune out of the players, basically saying that they can beat anyone on their day, say they're the really good players, and that was probably a big problem with a lot of the West Ham players. They just weren't. They were always, whenever they had a previous coach, and they were always told to how to defend against them, do your best, blah blah blah. But they were never kind of encouraged to play to their all. I think Antonio had an interview recently where he was saying that. But yeah, they finished pretty good. I know Spencer Owen will be really happy, because he's a diehard West Ham fan. But I said 9th, they came 10th, so I'm not too bad about that. And also there's some stellar signings, likes of Felipe Anderson. Jesus, he could easily been a dud, and he's actually been pretty prolific for him. 2 Brazilian left mids this season have been done pretty good. 8th, I have Burnley. I screwed up. Yeah, Burnley ended up finishing 15th. I should have remembered that they were in the Europa League and they're always going to have that crash. I wasn't expecting to have such a big crash. I don't think, once again, they didn't sign the right amount of players. They signed Joe Hart, who is a terrible signing wherever he goes. He doesn't really perform. They also got... I want to say they got... who did they get? I think they signed someone from Leeds. I can't remember his name. I want to say Woods, but I know it's not Woods. I think he's from New Zealand or something. But yeah, so they ended up signing him. He did a pretty good job from getting goals, but they just went back to start the season where they weren't playing their way, which is the kind of dogged football league kind of football, like just be difficult and annoying and difficult to beat and difficult to play and sneak a couple of wins, which is fine in the Premier League. You need a couple of teams like that. And eventually, I think it was around probably mid-November that eventually everything kind of clicked and they went back to their normal ways. They picked up some points against some of the big teams and it did them well. In 7th, we have Everton. I thought that the Marco Silva effect was going to kick in immediately, and they're just going to kind of go through the gears. Obviously, not be stellar, but be pretty good. At the start of the season, they picked up a few wins and they're doing good. Then all of a sudden everything just collapsed and just fell apart. Don't really know what happened, if you just lost the dressing room, and then all of a sudden everything clicked again and they went back in their winning ways. Definitely after March they just were unstoppable, especially when they played against Man United, although that was a bad spell of form for United, but beating them 4-0 against a team of their caliber, you can understand if they drew or lost for something 2-1, 1-0, something minor, something not too outstanding, but 4-0 was crazy for them. And it's just I think Silva is probably the mini Pep. It could be an interesting signing if Pep ever goes, if they go after him, but he's the inspired addition, and I think a few more seasons with them, Everton will be a difficult squad to play against, especially if he gets his defensive reinforcements and signings of Digne, Richarlison. Who else did they sign? Digne, Richarlison, and they got a few centre backs. But they'll probably look to sign Zuma on the permanent because he's been stellar for them as well. All them lads have been absolutely excellent. In 6th, I have Arsenal. He ended up getting them off by 1. They ended up finishing 5th this season, but yeah, I didn't think they were going to have enough in the canister for them to deliver. Their midfield has always been stellar for him, but in recent years it's actually swapped. That now they don't have the striker. They have the strikers to deliver, but they just don't have the midfielders. And the midfielders that they have, like of Ozil and stuff, who are world class in their day, just aren't delivering. It seems when Sanchez joined, and Ozil got the new contract, they're both like, we're not playing anymore. We have money, hurrah! So I don't know if there's some mentality with them that they're like, yeah, we're just gonna get money, never play football good again. But yeah, they haven't delivered. It'll be interesting what I know it's not. I was going to say Ranieri, but I know it's not Ranieri. Is he French or Spanish? The Arsenal manager, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Yeah, he's probably not. I think he might make some good signings, but his transfer decisions in the past have been a bit kind of iffy. Like the Lichtsteiner, I thought he was going to be a good signing at first, and then he just kind of stopped. Socrates, there was always question marks over him. He was a bit of a liability in the Bundesliga, and that's why Dortmund let him go, especially since they signed so many young players. Hopefully some of their signings will be a bit better in the summer, because like they're definitely going to need a new left back, 2 centre halves, because Koscielny's injury prone, Socrates is old and slow, and Mustafi is a red card waiting to happen, and then you have likes of Bellerin. I'm not sold on Bellerin, but they do have likes of is it Maitland-Niles and a few other lads that are in around the squad who are doing good stuff for him. I think that he could be better in midfield, in a centre mid role, or in a 3. He could do okay, or as a winger, but not like a first team starter. Although he has done it this season, he's been pretty okay. But he does pick up red cards, and he seems a bit, I was gonna say wild, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, these probably need a few more key signings. I was going to say get rid of Czech, but he's pretty much gone. Leno's their main starter. In 5th, I have Tottenham. They end up finishing 4th. They had a really good season. The reason I put them 5th was because I thought the transfer, or since they didn't make any transfers, that was going to be a hindrance for them. And the fact that they only had Llorente and Kane is injury prone, and that Son was going to be out for a while at the start of the season, and with the Asian Cup. Yeah, so they've done pretty well. They did have a bad stretch of games. They were they done really well in the Champions League and everything, but in the league their form has been terrible because I know everyone's saying like, oh, Ollie's at the wheel, whatever, but I think Poch has lost or dropped more points than Ollie in the same space of time. But it's just that they've done well in the Champions League. Everyone's kind of overlooking it, and every now and again they get a win, but like then they were getting a fair few losses in a row. And like last game, two last games of the season against Bournemouth, they lost 1-0 and they got 2 players sent off in the space of like 2 minutes. And then the last game of the season, I don't remember who they were playing, but they ended up losing that as well. So they're going into the Champions League final this season. I don't see them winning it, but it'll be really interesting if they do. Or if they lose it, because Liverpool gets the Champions League spot, and that means Tottenham lose the Champions League spot because they're in 4th, because you only get 3 Champions League spots, so they automatically get a Europa League spot, and then I think that'll knock Man United out of I'm not sure if they'll have to qualify or to get automatically put in. I'm pretty sure they might not even get put in, but so yeah, Tottenham in 5th and they finished 4th. Yeah, so they probably needed me to make a few signings because they sold a couple players at the start of the season, and then there's some players who just haven't been great. Like Llorente has been okay, but you probably want to get him gone soon. And Janssen, probably get some more youngsters in, either bought or someone new. Callum Wilson would be a good signing just because he's a different option for him, because they like to play it on the floor a lot when Kane's out, and you have likes of Moura and Son. Throw Wilson in there. He's quick on the floor, plays it really good. He's good in the box, and he could be a really good signing. It'll probably end up costing 50 million, so you never know with that kind of signing. But then on to 4th, I have Chelsea. They ended up finishing 3rd. I thought Chelsea just had a lot in the bag. I thought the Sarri effect was going to be hit them immediately, but that just seems like falling apart completely. Although that being said, they came 3rd in the season currently, and they're gotten to 2 finals, one in the Carabao Cup, I believe, and the Europa League final. So what can you say? Although I think all the teams from from third to sixth have just been terrible, and that's how Chelsea were able to sneak in because what was it, March they were sixth or seventh, and they somehow got back, no, fifth or sixth, and yeah, I don't know. I think Sarri is very one-dimensional, a very one-dimensional coach, which could be a hindrance for him because obviously they could have been so much higher if you take Jorginho out of the team, put Kante in the CDM role, maybe play. I was going to say Fosu Mensah, but it's not Fosu Mensah. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, centre mid, maybe Barkley or one of the other creative midfielders alongside him, and then have Hazard, Willian, and whoever up top, and then just go from there because you'll win games because Kante is a boss. But no, because Jorginho's a CDM who was great passing, and everyone figured out his team within 3 games, and he just never changed, which is crazy. But yeah, he's a very one-dimensional coach. I find like he's a good coach, but once you figure out his tactics, it's kind of easy to beat him. In third, I have Liverpool, which was completely wrong. They came in second. I wish they won. I wish they won the league, which is terrible because I support Man United. But I wanted them to win over City because City would get a monopoly on the league, and just keep bringing more and more money, or gives them more and more money, allows them to strengthen the squad, and just like cherry pick the league more and more, which is what I want other teams to do. And realistically, I want Man United to do that, but I just don't want City to do that, just because I don't want them to get a monopoly because it's just like it's a created team rather than a team formed through history and the history of the club and just like the fan base and everything. It's like Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal to an extent, any of them. But like I think Liverpool or Man United probably are the 2 biggest clubs with the most prestige in the league. I don't know. I'm probably going to start a war over that, saying that, but that's my opinions. But I don't know. City is a club with history, but like history of not being like Premier League winners and prestigious accolades and everything, and that I was going to say not pristine, just kind of showing how they're highly valued at that level, but I don't think they are. And they came third. I predict them to come third. Came second. Wish they came first, but so close, and it's so annoying that if they just didn't lose to City, that they would have an invincible season and they'd be on. If they bet City, they would be on 100 points and invincibles, which is ridiculous. Like, and literally the only major change of that team is Alisson and Van Dijk, which is insane. Just 2 players kind of completely changed the team dynamic. And I think if they had Gomez fit for the entire season, they probably won the league. It's crazy. In second, I had Manchester United. I thought somehow they were still going to. I thought they were going to make more signings, and everything would be grand and dandy. And that Mourinho saying that coming second with this Man United team was just my greatest ever achievement. On hindsight, it probably was because the team is goddamn dreadful. They didn't make any signings. They signed a bit par centre midfielder for 50 million. They signed a backup right back, even though I think he's better than the first team right back. I think he's pretty decent. And they signed a third choice keeper just for the English quota, I think, in Lee Grant. Yeah, it's beyond me. Like, out of all the coaches, they started Bloody Young, who was, I don't know why, he's a fucking retard. Excuse my language, but Jesus Christ. Like, he's the most incompetent footballer I've ever seen. And, like, it's beyond me how all the other coaches just don't drop him. And are saying, like, it's over. His experience in the game, it's like, well, he was a failed fucking winger, and he's a terrible fucking right back and left back. Why the fuck is he in the team? And it's like, when it comes to, like, wanting to tell your teammates alongside you what to do, like, keep a hold of the ball, and this fucking dope is doing Cruyff turns in the Camp Nou against fucking Messi, and you're like, the fuck are you doing, you fucking plonker? It's beyond me how he has not had his leg broken yet by some random, like, gangsters coming in. It's like, what the fuck? Like, you have likes of Brandon Williams and the under 23s. The only reason I know of him is Stephen Howson, but he's constantly raving about them, and he tends to have a good insight on that stuff. And then also Delo, like he was sick against Barcelona in the home leg at the left when he was playing at left back. He's great. He's a really good cross. He's defensively sound. Definitely more defensively sound than Young, because Young doesn't seem to know what the fuck he's doing, and he can't cross the ball to save his fucking life. If you had a gun to his head, you'd fucking kill him, because he's gonna fucking send it into the crowd. You're going like, wow, you just want to die. Yeah, the season's been really weird. Lukaku put on so much bloody weight. Doesn't make any sense changing him from a lean poacher into a target man, and he's completely lost all of his pace and his stamina. Rashford was good for the majority of the season till they played when they against Liverpool, and he kind of had that knock. Lingard was okay. He had picked up a knock as well. Herrera's gone. He should have been signed ages ago. The team's probably going to get stripped apart. They need to make at least 6 or 7 signings this transfer window coming, and that's before the likes of if De Gea, Pogba, Lukaku, and all these other players go, which is going to be insane. But I think it's the right kick to the hole the club needs, because I've been saying this for a while, that Man United are on the verge of becoming a Newcastle if they're not too careful. Like, not saying that Newcastle's bad or anything, but with the stage where like they're on a teetering balance, where at the moment they're just on the cusp of 6th, but if they don't fix it up, they could easily just fall down the table, and before you know it, like, because the players are shite, and like the money's eventually going to dry up. Well, the money won't dry up immediately, but like it will eventually, because if you're not winning, like, why would you want to go see a team not play great? I know there's the history and stuff, but the players or the people that have that history in the back of their mind, they're in their bloody 20s and 30s, and if they have kids, they're going to go see like Liverpool, City, Spurs. You probably want to go see Spurs because that stadium looks incredible, and also they're Manchester. Manchester doesn't really have that much. I don't think this stadium's actually in Manchester anyways, but and they're on a teetering slope, and they can easily fall down if they're not looking careful, because like the next 2 or 3 seasons is crucial for them to get rid of Deadwood, bring in some quality players, promote youth, whatever. If you want to go for one of those, like, promote youth, try them out, bring in some key players, get rid of Deadwood. Like I like Smalling because he's not too bad. He's a good defender on his day. He can be goddamn awful at times though. Jones is a bloody wrecking ball. There's no point having him because he plays, gets himself injured, and he's out for like 6 months, and then he comes back in. Rojo is a danger to himself and others. Young is a fucking retard. Valencia is going. I thought Valencia was a good, like, I don't understand. Valencia wasn't played for ages, but he was a so much better right back than Young. But whatever. I want Fred gone. I don't rate him at all. I'd like Matic gone, but I don't think he's going to, because they're probably going to leave that leadership role, even though he hasn't been a great leader. Herrera's gone. Unfortunately, I would have signed him down in a heartbeat. He was probably my favorite player for season upon season. Sanchez, fucking want him gone. Oh my god, he's a waste of space. So many players. Yeah, that's right, 10 players, and there's could still list off a few more. Yeah, they're going to need so many. I might do a transfer thing from United, because I'll just go on for like another 45 minutes on this. And then in first, which we got right, was Man City. I predicted them to come first, but I didn't want them to come first. Like the team they have, like they have to win the league. Like they have a player in every position that's as good as the other one, except for left back, and that's just because their first team choice is out injured the whole time. Other than that, they have like Jesus is a 50 million. I know he didn't cost him 50 million, but Jesus is at least a 50 million pound player. Aguero is left mid. You have Sané and Sterling. Right mid, you have Silva, Bernardo Silva, and Mahrez. Centre mid, you have all the lads: Gundogan, Silva, De Bruyne, Fernandinho. You can also play the other Silva there, and a few others I can't remember off the top of my head. Foden, who's stellar at the moment as well. I didn't think he was going to get a shout at all, and he's played 20 times, I think. Scored a few important goals. Then the backs, I think they're still really error prone at the back. You have likes of bloody. I think this might still have Mangala on the books. I'm not sure if he went on loan or if he was sold. Otamendi, he's a bloody Jesus Christ. He's terrible. Everyone keeps raving that he's a great player on the ball, but he's goddamn awful. The only reason he's looks somewhat good is because of Fernandinho's wiping everything up. One on one, he's going to just take people out and get red cards the whole time. Like, he's worse than Socrates or Mustafi, in my opinion. They have Company, who's stellar. He reminds me very much of Ledley King, where he's injured the whole time, but he can barely train. But whenever he plays, like, he seems like he's been fully fit for the entire season and gives it 100%. Like, the goal against bloody Leicester was like I don't care if City won that game through that goal himself, and like he's the one player in that Man City squad that's like, okay, you were here before the money and you're like the embodiment of the club. Like, he's probably one of my favorite players in the league, and he's such a good role model and everything. Even though I was trashing Man City before, but Vinny Company's excellent. And then you have Laporte, and a few other players. John Stones. John Stone's really good, but he doesn't actually get played enough. And then right back, Walker, the other lad, this Brazilian, I can't remember his name, Danilo, and left back you have Mendy, who's constantly injured, and he seems like a disaster of a signing at the moment, just because he doesn't seem to have, like, he's a good social media presence. He's a very much Paul Pogba-esque player. Has all the physicalities to be the player, but just injury prone. I think that when he did I think it was ACL that just screwed him, and he's so young to get it that it's just going to be a consistent problem, and it happened again. And then likes of Zinchenko and who's the other one, Delph, have done really well in the left back role. I think they'll probably end up signing a permanent player. They might just sell Mendy or send him out on loan just to work on his rehabilitation. But yeah, they've had a really good season. I've questioned Pep a bit sometimes this season because they lost some games where they shouldn't have, and some of the teams they played against like just didn't perform. Like, there's a lot of 1-0s and 2-0s, which a team of their caliber should not be doing. I know teams just sit back and play against them, but the way they set their team is that they kind of go up in blocks, where like the front six essentially will pin them back, and eventually the fullbacks will come up and they just pass through, and wait for the defense to kind of open up and just pulverize them. And like that kind of, I suppose it's just the way the teams play against them, that they don't want to go toe to toe with them because you'll get ripped to shreds, and they just have to pretty much just sit back on their heels. Everyone stand in the box, kind of like the time Bayern played Chelsea in the Champions League final. Was it 2011, 2012? Pretty much everyone was in the goals, and just everyone was pinging shots. That's pretty much been a lot of the teams they played against, except for the likes of Liverpool, where they catch them on the break and they hit them hard with pace. Could be interesting if United kind of click that heavy metal kind of counter-attacking football, which I think is why they went back to the Mourinho-esque style of playing after Liverpool game, because I don't think the players were fit enough, which is terrible because the professional footballers should be able to run around. That being said, I'm not fit myself, so I can't really comment on that. But yeah, they did pretty well. I don't think my predictions were off too much. I got a few off by ones, a couple right, and some ones off by a fair bit, like Severe, Watford, Crystal Palace, Leicester, Wolves, Man United, Burnley. Maybe got a lot wrong, but I think my mindset was right in a sense. But yeah, sure, we'll end it there. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.